Christmas, Seth.
Hey, Merry Chrismukkah.
That's right. Actually, someone who celebrates both. How
Mhm.
dare I forget? This is like a true Chrismukkah year.
Oh,
Chrismukkah begin like Hanukkah and Christmas are on the same night.
yeah. Pretty amazing. Isn't it
Yeah.
normally like Hanukkah starts early?
Yes, yeah. Sometimes it's like really early. There have been times when it lines up with Thanksgiving weekend, which is always strange. But then it's
Hmm.
like, oh, we're kicking off the Chrismukkah season. But I truly love when they align because it's like all the forces come together
Yeah.
and you just feel all the magic and sparkle.
Is there a on the first day of Chrismukkah song?
I'm adding it to our list,
I just
Seth.
gave Michelle a project. Folks, if this
Oh
episode
my
ends
gosh.
with us singing
On
the
the first
eight
day of Chrismukkah, my true love gave to me.
the 8 days of Chrismukkah, you'll know where the idea came from.
That's right.
But
Wow.
yes, Merry Christmas to all of our listeners. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Chrismukkah. It is
Yeah.
Christmas Day. And last year on Christmas Day, we released an episode on a movie that we wanted to talk about. And oh my God.
Well, it's Christmas morning. You're sleepy.
Yeah. And we didn't want to be burdened with all the normal trappings of a Movie Friends episode. We just wanted to get together and share our love for what we consider to be maybe the best Christmas movie ever, which was, of course, Muppets Christmas Carol. And that was a great
No,
episode.
it was a great episode. It's a no-brainer too.
So
I
fun.
mean, so fun.
And so
Yeah.
this year, we were like, let's do that again with maybe not the best Christmas movie ever.
Well, I think it depends on who you ask.
But this was such a joy to watch and rewatch. I watched this twice.
Yeah.
The second time I watched it with my wife, and we were just beside ourselves. Like, it's so silly, but also very nostalgic for like going back to the Brady's. So yeah,
Can I share something with you?
share it, go.
I don't know if I've shared this before, but I don't think so because I feel like this was a new moment of come to conclusion, if you
Okay,
will.
okay,
So I first saw this movie in 2021
okay.
and I was sitting at my desk. And at the time at my job, I could do tasks and like watch TV and movies at the same time. So I would just like binge content like crazy. And so it was December. And so on Anthony's computer, I started watching this movie, Very Brady Christmas. And it like blew my mind that one, I've never seen it before. Two, Peter's nightgown, which we will get to.
Yes.
Uh, but also like no one around me seemed to have seen this before. And so fast forward, you pitched to me to do Movie Friends,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And in the back of my mind, this was my North Star.
Yes. Yep.
This was the movie I've been wanting to talk about really since we started this movie podcast. And
Yep.
honestly, this is kind of what made me say yes. This and
Interesting.
talking about sidekicks was like, if I get two movies in,
Right.
it's sidekicks and A Very Brady Christmas.
That is
How do you
very
feel? Are you
funny.
proud now that you're glad you picked me to do this podcast with?
Oh, I'm proud every week that you
It's so funny to me.
accepted the offer
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
begging. Folks, if you don't know the story, basically for like 10 years, every time I
Yeah.
saw Michelle, I'd be like, hey, what about a
Hey.
podcast where you get your friends together and you cook recipes that's
Mhm.
like their recipe, and you just record the conversation, you go through it, and you call it Cooking with Friends. That was a real pitch that I gave to Michelle at one point.
I know, and I still love that idea.
And I think you said yours would be scrambled eggs, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, how you cook scrambled eggs.
Mhm.
And then I'd be like, hey, what about a podcast about freaks and geeks? And she'd be like, okay, yeah. And whatever. All through the years, just every little
And
thing.
what did I say to you? I said, "Sure, you do it.
She would always say, sure, if you do it, yeah, of course. And I was
You do
always like,
all the work. I will come on board.
yeah,
My plate is fulleth."
right. And I didn't understand what she meant at the time. I thought she meant like you do the show and I'll come on as a guest or something. And then I saw you over the summer of 2022.
Yep.
I think it was August.
It was. Yep.
I noted to you that my Twitter profile bio said, I only want to talk to you about movies. And your Twitter bio at the time said, chances are I haven't seen the movie. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And I said that to you, and I was like, isn't that funny? We should do a movie podcast because in 2022, that's the year that I was watching 1,000 movies. And I didn't love advertising that, but I think I was talking about it on social media, but I didn't love like walking into a party and being like, guess what I'm doing with my year, everybody, kind of a thing. It was like a little embarrassing.
I don't know why, but we can move on. I don't think that's embarrassing at all.
So, eventually that came up in discussion, and in talking with you, I was like, we should do this. And you said the same thing again. You were like, okay, whatever. And so
Yeah.
it happened. And here we are.
And here we are. And so I finally get to talk about A Very Brady Christmas. And you know what else was the guiding light truly is when I brought this up last December and our content calendar was full. I was like, "Have you seen this?" And you were like, "Oh, of course."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Seth has no one has seen this."
Yeah. Yeah. I've
Krista,
seen
my best
this.
friend who loves Brady Bunch with me growing up, it's nostalgic, never seen it. So I've been
Yeah.
alone,
Yeah.
alone with this gem.
I've seen this, and I've seen the Brady Bunch TV movie where the sisters get married,
The
which,
Brady
which
Brides?
yeah, precedes this one,
Yes.
where we're first
Yes.
introduced to Philip and Wally. And it's like an odd couple type of movie
Yeah.
where it's like Philip is such a stuffy, stuck up guy, and Wally's like, I'm Wally. And
Yeah, I've
I
never
just
seen that.
there's a point where like both Wally and Philip just like they like throw their pants down to the ground in defiance of each other. It's such a weird thing. But yes, I've seen the Brady Bunch. We watched the Brady Bunch a lot on Nick at Night and then
Yeah.
TV Land.
Yeah. It was fun diving into the history of the Brady Bunch because when it aired, it didn't really do that well. And it
Right.
was until it hit syndication that it became iconic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it still had, a number of seasons. It's not like it was off in 2 seasons or whatever.
Right. 5
Yeah.
seasons. Yeah,
Yeah.
that it
It's
had.
pretty good for a TV show.
I know. I
Yeah.
know.
And then you get the Brady Bunch variety show,
Yep.
which if no one has ever looked up clips, check it out if you can. It's it's amazing. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, growing up watching it on Nick at Night, it's just so comforting. And at the
Hmm.
time, I knew it was comforting. And my mom, I remember this so clearly. She'd be like, "Oh, the Brady Bunch was so corny."
Yes.
Like I
I'm so
never. My
glad you
mom
used
was like,
that
my
word.
parents were like, "I never watched it. It was so corny and
Hmm.
cheesy." And I'm like, I
Hmm.
don't know. It's fun to watch, and maybe
Hmm.
because we're going back, we get to see like the '60s aesthetic. But I don't know. I just loved it. And then I think the Brady movie was very popular for our age group. If you grew up watching the Brady Bunch on TV at Nick at Night.
There was something about the Brady movie and Growing Up Brady, which was a
Yes.
made for TV docu ish
Yeah.
movie that was like, this is what it was really like behind the scenes. And I remember watching it as a kid, and I was just very off put because they were, I mean, really, Greg and Marcia, they were really trying to like sexualize them in their relationship. But the whole time I was like, these are like kids. Like, this feels
Mhm.
so weird. And I think that there's something about the 100% corniness of the Bradys that wants to pick that apart and lampoon it and like turn it into something like darker and more just different from what it is, because it's kind of like people's reaction to Mr. Rogers, right? Like you
Yeah.
see Mr. Rogers and immediately you're just like, oh well, actually Mr. Rogers has tattoos and that's why he wears sweaters, or actually he was in the army and killed a bunch of people. Like there's just this response to it where you can't accept it. You have to turn it into something else. So I was never really a big fan of the Brady Bunch movie, or I think it was the Very Brady sequel.
I think there was 2. I mean, it's a parody, but I loved
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
Sherwood Schwartz was a writer on that movie.
Yes, yeah.
So, like, he fully owns it. He fully owns his
Yeah.
characters and who they
Mhm,
are.
mhm.
Going back to the darker tone and people wanting a darker tone, I had no idea that a series in the short-lived series in the 90s existed called The Bradys. Did you
Do
know?
I
And, like, Bobby becomes a paraplegic.
Yes, yes. So
Mike
he's
it's
established.
crazy.
Okay, I'm glad that you brought that up because I had a memory
Yes.
of Mike as a race car driver, which is established in this
You
movie,
mean
right?
Bobby.
Yeah, Bobby as a race car driver,
Yeah.
which is established in this movie, getting into a really bad accident. And so the whole time I'm rewatching A Very Brady Christmas, I'm like, oh, does this happen in this movie? There must be another one. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Yeah, it turns out I consumed a lot of Brady
Well,
content.
when we first spoke about Brady Christmas, you were like, "Oh, that's where Bobby gets into an awful accident and becomes a
Mhm.
paraplegic." I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And, like, you couldn't pinpoint where you picked that up, and I was like, "I think
Mhm.
Seth, like, imagine this." I was like, "He that does not happen." Plus, the Brady Bunch wouldn't go that dark, but the rest of the characters
They
in the Bradys go dark. Like,
Yeah,
Mike is
yeah.
working in politics, Jen
Oh,
is
yes,
cheating,
yes.
like, everybody's cheating,
Yeah,
nobody is happy. I'm like
yeah.
and it's an hour long as opposed to 30 minutes,
Mhm.
but there's
The
still a laugh track added.
My wife commented on A Very Brady Christmas. She was like, "This is really dark. Why are they going so dark with all these storylines? Everyone is, like, miserable, but it's still so, so, so corny." One of the things that I commented to you was Mike and Carol talk to each other as if they're, like, on stage doing bits in between, like, a variety or vaudeville act, but they're just in their house talking to each other, but they're, like, not turning to the camera, but, like, turning away from each other as if they're kind of addressing an audience. They
Yeah.
talk they're the way that they speak isn't conversational. It's
No, it's a
all, like,
cadence.
it's like, I think you could recut A Very Brady Christmas to be, like, a horror movie about people who have been, like, body snatched by aliens because they just all act so strangely, especially when Alice joins the 3 of them. So, I don't know how you wanna do this.
Well, I wanna I my first question for you is
Again, if you're listening to this because you searched A Very Brady Christmas, and we are the only podcast on the planet that has done an episode on it because we're the only podcast on the planet who's heard of it. This is not our typical show format, but hey, welcome.
welcome. Yes,
This is
happy
laid
Chrismukkah.
back. This is a very movie friends Christmas.
That's right. We're
Yeah.
laid back, Brady.
I'm wearing a nightgown right now.
Okay,
Michelle is wearing her housekeeping uniform that she hasn't worn in 20 years,
I had
but
to
still
show up for the
but
part.
still has.
That's right. That's right. Okay. I think let's just start with talking about the premise for this movie.
Go for it.
Okay.
Mhm.
So Mike and Carol, they're living their adult lives. Kids are out of the house. Carol's working in real estate. Mike is still an architect. We're getting close to the holidays, and they decide that they're going to surprise one another with a surprise trip.
Yes.
And so Carol's like, I'm going to take Mike on a cruise to Greece. And Mike is like, I'm going to surprise Carol with a trip to Japan. And so this is like how this all begins.
It's it,
They have a shared savings account.
yeah. It's a take on The Gift of the Magi, but like the most low stakes, boring version of it of all time. So, like, the
Yeah.
famous Christmas story is the husband sells his watch to buy his wife a hairbrush, and she sells her hair to buy him a new band for his watch or whatever, right? But in this, it's just like first world problems. The movie basically is what this movie like boils down to. Yeah,
But
it's like
still feels very Brady.
it's very yes, it's very yeah.
And so
Corny,
they
corny.
eat
I echo your mother's
corny.
word. It's
It's
so
corny. It's
corny. Yeah.
corny, but they both go separately to the travel
Mhm.
agency, but they're there at the same time to book the trip, and Carol goes to pay for the trip, and the woman's like, "Oh, well, you have no money in your account." you must be a fraud.
Mm-hmm.
Mike overhears. And so then they decide, you know what? Let's not do a trip. Let's pay for the kids to come home for Christmas.
Yeah. Let's not do either of those fun things that we planned and really wanted to do.
Well, like, this is what's weird to me. I don't have a big family,
Mm-hmm.
just me and my sister and my mom.
Mm-hmm.
We have aunt's family. But like I said this to Anthony. I said, I wonder if this is how the Vargases are on Christmas Day when they all get together. There's so many of you. There's so many of the
Oh
Bradys,
yeah,
and then
we're
they're
all wearing suits to
well,
sit down
okay,
for Christmas.
we
Yeah.
can get there. But like, wouldn't any of these kids be coming home for Christmas? Cindy's off at college. She's going off on a ski trip. She's hoping to anyway. Wouldn't this be discussed in any of your kids? I don't know. Should we assume this was discussed?
Yeah, Mike and Carol mention briefly like some years some of them come, some years the other ones come, but they're never here all at the same time. And that is kind of realistic too. I mean, I have 7 siblings, so
Right.
I'm one of 8. Which growing up and everybody being like the Brady's are a huge family, we were like not really actually, but
Please.
yeah. So yeah, it is, that's realistic to what it's like with a big family.
But even Cindy, who's in college,
Cindy, look, this is not the real Cindy, so as far as I'm
no, I know.
concerned.
She's the actress who played Cindy originally. She didn't come back for her to reprise her role, but also
Mhm,
found out later on that, she was the least requested and they would pay her the least. She's like,
mhm.
I'm not doing this. So I thought the actress that played her was fine.
She's fine. Yeah. Just, not my Cindy. So,
Of course. Of course. Okay. So you feel like this was all, I mean, I guess it is realistic. I don't know. I'm like, you're in college. I guess your parents called you beforehand. Like, we're going on a trip. You're free to do what you want. You're the last on that pole.
well, and so, yeah, that's kind of I think this movie does two things really unnecessarily. And all I can think is that it's to pad for time. The
Mhm.
whole trip mix up thing just doesn't need to happen. It has no bearing on like the rest of the movie.
Mm.
And then the whole Ted Roberts thing, which
But
we'll
that
talk
creates the
about,
tension.
that's unnecessary.
Well, let's
But
talk about that now because
you
that
want to talk about that now?
we are
Okay.
introduced to Ted Roberts in the beginning,
Hmm.
who Carol worked with and got and connected him and Mike,
Yeah.
and so Mike can work on his building, come up with the plans.
Yeah. So Ted Roberts develops buildings, real estate. Carol
Yep.
sells him a lot and says, "Hey, my husband's an architect." Whatever. Mike wants to reinforce the building beyond what's required by code, and Ted Roberts disagrees because it's going to cost more money. Okay, okay, okay. Ted Roberts is like this specter that hangs over this movie, and he's like this villain. Like they have to like create a villain, I guess, because there's no
Right.
villain in the Brady
Right.
Bunch world. And so he kind of goes away because Mike says, find another architect, whatever. Then we go through all of the Brady kids' arcs and they all resolve. And to me, like at that Christmas dinner, when everyone confesses to each other and fixes all their problems instantaneously, that's kind of the end of the movie. Nope. Because with like, I don't know, 7 minutes left. 7 minutes left. Mike has to get stuck in a collapsing building on Christmas Day.
What confused me about this is
Yeah.
he gets the call
Hmm.
to go down because 2 security guards got stuck because there was the building, like,
Yeah.
concaved in, right?
Hmm.
We're calling the architect? Like, shouldn't I mean, the paramedics are there, but Mike is like, "I'm the only one who can go in and get these dudes." And so he goes in and gets the dudes, and then Mike gets caught, and then we have another structural fall.
I think it kind of makes sense because, like, as the architect, look, I'm not, I don't really know about like structural engineers. I don't know anything about engineering, but he does say, like, okay, the collapse is here. Start digging a trench here to relieve pressure. Like, I
Right, the
guess
pressure.
he would
Yeah.
know certain things. It just seems like there would be like government officials who would
Mhm.
be in charge of collapsing buildings. And that, like, if the architect showed up and was like, I'm going to go in there, everyone wouldn't just be like, oh, never mind. Here's the guy. Okay.
Right.
Let him do whatever he wants.
Right. Yeah.
But it's just, oh, yeah. I think if you cut out a lot of the beginning stuff, you slide everything down. Mike goes into the collapse building with like 30 minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
And that snap of danger and reality causes everyone to then have the revelations about themselves and their lives as they look back on clips from the show. Like, we only get one look back.
I know the camping scene with the fake bear when the boys are camping, and there's like a
Oh, I'm wrong. We get two then. Because I was thinking about when Cindy asks Santa for her mom's voice
oh
back.
yes, and
Yeah.
yeah, right.
So it's like there's an opportunity to kind of like look back on the show, look back on all the characters, and all the characters kind of fix themselves there at the
Mhm.
construction site instead of at home. And then but it just feels so tacked on. Like, did it feel that way to you or no?
No, no. I love this. So
Well, you're also coming at it from watching it in 2021, where the last time I saw this was, years and years ago. And so the whole
that's
time I'm
true.
like,
That's true.
oh,
Yeah.
when is Mike going into the building? Oh, when is Mike going into the building? And then I was like, wait, did I misremember this? And then,
Got it.
yeah, at the very end, I'm like, oh my God, why are we doing this now?
I mean, I see what you're saying, but
Mhm.
I feel like the kids coming to their points of recognition around the family table and everybody experience it with the patriarch there was a good choice.
Y-
Because Mike would have been in the
Yeah,
building if
yeah,
all of them came to their conclusions, you know?
yeah. And just do that and just end there. And the movie ends with a knock at the door, and it's Cheater Claus.
No, okay.
All right, we
I
have to
want
go back. We have to go back
we
to
have
the
to go back.
beginning.
We have to go back, but I do wanna go through every character and where they're at, but let's start
Yeah.
with Alice. So Alice is not working for the Bradys anymore. There's no need for her.
Yeah.
She shows up and she's hysterical because Sam has left her for a younger woman.
This is evil. I just want to say it.
So evil.
This is terrible. Sam the Butcher is a beloved side character from the
Agreed.
Brady Bunch, right? Isn't there an episode where Sam and Alice get married?
I believe so because I remember that.
Yeah. Maybe we're misremembering, but either way,
They end up together.
I get it. As a writer, you need to explain, why is Alice here? How do we get her here? Because the kids are all gone. She wouldn't still be working for Mike and Carol. They have Alice show up on the front door crying because Sam left her. She got a note that he left
For a younger woman.
for a younger woman, rump roast. Like, it's crazy. Again, not to rewrite a movie that's like 40 years old, but Alice gives a call. Hey, Carol, Sam is going to his yearly butcher conference, and I don't want to go.
That's right.
Can I come spend the holidays with you? Of course, Alice. Oh, I'll be so sad to spend Christmas without Sam, but it'll be nice to be with you. Sam shows up on Christmas Day. Great. And movie ends and everyone's happy.
Yeah.
How much simpler is that?
It and that to me is what we should do for Alice, like justice for Alice, and that would fit into this Brady tone. But
Yeah.
instead, Sam shows up dressed as Santa, begging for her forget barely begging. I'm not even gonna
No
say begging, just like, "Alice, will you take me back?" And she goes, "Yes."
no one recognizes him, by the way.
Well, he's dressed as Santa. When's the last time they saw Sam?
If okay, but Alice doesn't recognize him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that fits for Alice. Alice is so kooky. That's why
Uh,
we
uh,
love her.
Side note, at one point Mike and Carol mentioned that they just recently celebrated 20 years of
Mhm,
marriage.
mhm.
And I like jumped out of my seat. I was like, "What?" Because I just celebrated 15 years of marriage. I was like, I'm not as old as these people. But then I remembered that they were both previously married anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
I hate this. Like, I hate every part of it so much so that when Alice reads the note, I thought it was going to be the type of thing where like she had it folded wrong, and if you unfolded the note it would tell the whole story, and so she was reading like half of it, and in the end Sam would be like, oh, didn't you get my note? And then you unfold it and each sentence is actually twice as long, and it would be funny, and she'd be like, oh, I thought you cheated on me, and Sam would say, I would never cheat on you, Alice, because no one would ever cheat on Alice because Alice rules. No, instead we went like the most cruel evil way. I hate it. I
I know. Why would
hate
we do that
it.
to her? That's probably the thing I hate the most.
Hmm.
The thing I hate about
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
I'll accept almost everything else as right now, maybe as we go on. Well, no, I'm gonna take that back. But this is
Yeah.
the thing that bothers me the most
Yeah.
because you just presented like 2 examples beautifully that could have been done. Why did we have to do that?
Or, you know, it's still sad, but Sam died,
Or that.
you
Or
know?
that.
Or
Yes.
Sam's mom died and he has to go what anything.
There's
Anything.
so spin the wheel. There's so
Alice
many
doesn't
other
deserve
options.
this. Like
No.
it's
No. But
yeah.
Alice is happy to stay with the Bradys and she's instantly in her outfit. This iconic blue maid outfit. You
It's
don't and Carol says to her over and over, "You don't work for us anymore."
mhm, mhm.
And it's just like this is her role and habit. So,
Another thing, Mike
yes.
says to her, yeah, Alice, your room is still here, exactly the way that you left it.
What the heckles?
And in the opening credits with a song, which I hate because you find out that it's Mike like looking for his wallet and Carol following him around. And
Yep.
he's looking in like every weird place throughout the house. But anyway, I think that's to show like, hey, you remember what the house looked like. Well, now it looks like this. And it's very updated to like late 80s, early 90s style. Everything's like teal, pastel.
Yep.
My God, it's horrendous.
It's so of the time
Horrendous.
though.
It's intense. And so we see that the house is updated, but they just left Alice's room. Like
Well, I also have
they
another
taped it off.
that and like when they're trying to figure out where everybody's going to sleep. What about the attic?
Sure.
We had a bed like at one time, Marcia and Greg had their bedrooms up there. Maybe stuff is all up in the attic. Maybe the bedding is up in the I don't know. That threw me too.
Yeah, yeah. That was also very silly because they're like, how are we going to find rooms for all these people? I don't know, architect. Maybe rent 3 hotel rooms. You're already paying for everyone to fly out here. Like, does
Right.
everyone need to sleep? You
Right.
know what I mean? Like, it's just as
Yeah.
it's silly.
All right. So let's start because like I said, I want to go through everyone, the kids mainly. We already talked about Carol, Mike, and Alice. Marcia.
Yes.
Marcia
Oh
ends up with
God.
Wally, who
Bom
lost his job.
bom.
He's such a man child.
I hate Wally.
I
I
cannot stand
hate
this
this
guy.
guy.
How
Oh
did
my
Marcia
gosh.
end up with him? And then in the Brady's, the dark uh dramatic series, she's becomes an alcoholic
Hmm.
because of her life and how it's ended up. But anyway, okay, so she's married to Wally. He loses his job working for a toy company and they
Yep.
have 2 kids.
Yep.
How do you Marcia like is this what do we think
My
about this?
life is over.
He's
I,
so annoying.
I don't like to disparage people. Jerry Hauser, he's done a lot of voiceover work,
Mhm.
you know? In a movie about the Bradys, to be the standout worst actor is quite an accomplishment, I think. I hate him. I hate every part of it. I hate the performance. I think the actor is terrible. I think, I mean, yes, losing your job is horrible and stressful and, all of that stuff. But I don't know. I hate this guy.
And I don't know if you can remember because I never saw the Brady Brides.
Hmm.
And so like I don't know where Marcia ended up. I didn't get to watch the finale of the Brady Bunch, the series finale. And so I
Hmm.
don't know like I just guess I wanted more for Marcia.
Well, yeah, Marsha's storyline in this movie is completely dominated by Wally. Like, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Like everything from her is just a reaction to what Wally is going through.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, I was disappointed with that.
Yeah.
Jan and Philip are having marital issues. She's an architect and
Mhm.
he is a scientist,
Yeah, he's like a researcher.
researcher.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of these two and how we get to see them?
I was fine with them. I just didn't like I guess their thing is that they're just bad communicators, like they love each other,
Right.
but they just can't communicate. And like their resolution where Carol just like comes into the room and is like, time to get up. And then like as they explain to her what's happening, they hear what each other are thinking for the first time. I guess. But
Mm.
for everything to just be like, oh, everything's good now after, a minute conversation, I was like, that was silly to me.
Yeah. And they've been sleeping separately and
Yeah.
staying in separate places.
Yeah.
And then within a minute on Christmas morning, we're good.
Look, there are people I don't get along with, but I would sleep in a bed with people that I don't get along with way before I would sleep in a big pull out metal drawer.
What the heck was that?
No idea.
Why don't you sleep on the floor? You opt for the drawer?
I don't know. It's bizarre. Very
Bizarre.
bizarre. Yeah.
Greg and his wife Nora.
Hmm.
Are we happy with Greg became an obstetrician and
Yeah.
Nora is a nurse? They have
Yeah.
one son.
Greg in this movie is so Mike like his
Yeah.
dad. They
Yeah.
both look really similar because of the mustache.
Yep.
And I feel like Barry Williams is like doing a very good Robert Reed impression almost.
Yeah.
Like I think he's like purposefully trying to be closer to Mike in this movie, and I think it pays off. Yeah, I thought that theirs was kind of the most normal. Like this hardly is even tension or an arc. It's just like I'm gonna go with my family, you're gonna go with yours, which is
And then
just
Nora ends up coming on Christmas morning because she's like,
right.
"How I don't want to be away from you guys. You're my family."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as someone who doesn't really care about holidays, that's just a
Yeah.
logistical conversation. That's not like oh my God, what will happen next? It's just, all right, I'm going here, you're going there. Okay,
Yeah.
love you, bye.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Peter and Valerie.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Valerie is Peter's boss. I'm
Hmm.
not really sure where they work. Do you know the occupation?
I don't know, and I don't know that they mention
I
it,
know.
but it gives the feeling that they were together before she got promoted,
Mhm.
and now that she's promoted, they keep it a secret, or maybe they kept it a secret the whole time. But this was like a little more interesting. It's just hard to relate to because it's 2024, and it's like
Right. It's dated.
Peter's like, it bothers me that my girlfriend makes more money than me. It's like, okay, well, so what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And they end up fine because they end up proposing to one another.
at the exact same moment.
Well, Carol's like, "Okay, you guys, say what you both feel at the same exact time."
I do like how Mike comments, and I wonder if this was just a note from Robert Reed because I don't know. Did you look into Robert Reed?
A little bit. I have in the past.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like he was like a classically trained actor.
Yep.
He had done a few films and he was really not super into the idea of
Uh-huh.
being a TV dad.
Yep.
He was gay in real life,
Yep.
and the final episode of the Brady Bunch, they wrote him out of it.
Oh, really?
He demanded that they rewrite his lines because he was just like, I don't want to say that. Like, this is ridiculous. And so they just gave all of his lines to Alice and Carol, and he's not in the final episode of the Brady Bunch.
Wow. I didn't
Yeah.
know that. Like I said, I haven't seen the series finale.
Yeah. So Mike comments at the table. He's like, that was the worst Christmas. I mean, that was the worst marriage proposal I've ever seen. You didn't even get down on one knee.
I do like when we get not to jump because I know we're talking about Peter and Valerie, but I do like when we see Mike be a little stern, like when
Mhm,
his grandson Mickey's coming down the banister
mhm.
and he's like, "We're not going to do that." Along those lines. I was like, "Yes,
Yeah.
Mike." I like when we get like a serious uh
Yeah.
Mike. But Peter, yes, he doesn't, he's feeling self-conscious about the fact that his girlfriend makes more money than him. He wears a nightgown.
Peter wears a nightgown at night.
The sleeping arrangements, Peter and Bobby are sleeping on the couches together.
Yep. Yep.
And then Valerie and Cindy have to share a room. And then the two people the two couples that are married get to sleep in the same room.
Why would Valerie and Peter not get a room? And then
Right.
Bobby and Cindy as the two youngest. I
On the
guess,
couches.
yeah.
Like, why?
I mean, I guess the rules are just if you're not married,
I
you're
guess
not.
so.
Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah. But everyone else's sleepwear makes sense to me. I cannot get over that Peter is a grown man wearing a nightgown. I have been harboring on this since I watched this. I finally can talk about it with a mic in front of me. Why does this blow my mind? Do you wear nightgowns?
No, no, it's great. You know, it's kind of like everyone else is wearing period and age appropriate
Yes.
sleepwear. And then Peter, so it's not like all the Brady men are wearing nightgowns. And
No.
and and there's a joke there where all of their female counterparts could be like, "Oh my god, you all wear these, right?" Nope. It turns out just Peter brought a nightgown from home, which means that he in his personal day-to-day, like another joke is Peter says, I forgot to bring something to wear. And Mike says, that's okay. I've got I've got pajamas from the 60s up in the attic. And then Peter has to wear a nightgown. And that's a joke. No joke here.
No, this is full serious.
Just a character choice.
A character choice. And they think about it like, were businessmen wearing nightgowns? And like, what? I'm thinking of like his style because like Philip wears a pajama set that I
Mm-hmm.
thought that Peter would wear.
It's funny you said businessmen around
Hmm.
this time. So I immediately went to Patrick Bateman from American Psycho, and then
Hmm.
I was just imagining Patrick Bateman wearing a nightgown.
I just can never let it go. I can never let it
It's
go.
very weird, yeah.
And if you haven't seen it in a while, just Google it. You have to see the image.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't seen this movie and you're listening to this, well, I'm sorry, but it's a real treat when you're
Yeah,
watching this movie and you're like, "What is
it's one of the best
Peter wearing?"
parts.
It's one
Yeah,
of the best parts. It's one
yeah,
of the
yeah.
best parts. Yeah. Okay. So Bobby dropped out of college. He wants to be a race car driver. Go, Bobby.
Just kind of like, okay. And again, it's relatable. You don't want to disappoint or worry,
Yeah.
your parents.
Yeah.
So, it's fine. But it's kind of a nothing, you know. Like I feel like the two really tense ones are Jan and Marcia.
Yeah.
Husband lost his job. I'm getting divorced.
Right.
Okay. And everything else beyond that is just like diminishing returns of tension.
Sure, but we still have
Yeah.
to have an update on them. So
Yeah.
I get what we're doing. And then Cindy's away at college and still feeling like she's unheard because she's the youngest.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And she's sitting at the kids' table.
That is cruel.
How Bobby would have been in his final year of college, right?
Hmm.
So even if Cindy is a year younger than Bobby, she's still 20, 21.
Yeah, she should not be at the kids' table.
And all these kids are like 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's really weird.
But it just shows how the family still views her
Right.
and how she still feels.
But not Mike. Like again, like you would think that the two youngest would keep getting paired together.
Hmm.
Like, oh yeah, Mike and Cindy, you're at the.
You mean Bobby? Bobby and
Oh yeah,
Cindy.
oops, sorry.
Yeah. There's so many of them. I
I
know.
know, yeah.
Yeah. But yes, right. Unless maybe we didn't see it, which I don't think so. This is me just trying to fix the problem. And Cindy's like, I'll sit with my niece and nephews. There's no way. So, in preparation for this, I watched the pilot of the Brady Bunch
Yep, yeah.
and
I
I
watched
watched,
some random episodes, yeah.
okay, yeah, I watched the pilot and then I watched the Christmas episode that is referenced. You brought this up. It's referenced to this movie when Carol loses her voice and
Yes.
she has to sing in at church on Christmas morning, and Cindy goes to Santa Claus and asks for her mother's voice back. I was like, "This is so fun to revisit. Let me go watch more Brady Christmas episodes." There aren't any. There's only
Wow.
one Christmas episode, and it's in the first season. Isn't that
Interesting.
strange?
That is strange. Yeah.
But the pilot is wild. I guess I forgot that Alice worked for Mike,
Yep.
and that's how she's brought into the
Mhm.
Bradys, and then they get married in that first episode, and it's just a wild goose chase because the dog comes and the
Yeah.
cat's there and
Right.
right. Have you seen it? You've seen it or do
Yeah,
you
yeah,
remember it?
yeah, yeah. The cat and the dog thing, it's very much like, "Uh-oh, can boys and girls coexist?"
Right, and it's
You know?
also it's just so bad. The
Mhm.
barking and the meowing are not even coming from these animals' mouths,
Oh,
obviously, but
yeah.
their mouths are not moving. The sound effects used are misplaced, not lined up. I move on.
It was a pilot. They were
It was
like,
a pilot.
"Who knows if this will even get picked up?
Right,
Don't spend too much time on the barks."
right.
Yeah, and it's established that Mike's wife had passed away. Carol did get divorced, and they never mention it on the show directly
Mhm,
because they were like, "This is too
mhm,
much, very
mhm,
very much too much." I
mhm.
don't know if you grew up hearing things like the Brady Bunch was the first couple to share a bed together.
Um, did I hear I don't remember. It was more so, like, focused on, like, a blended family.
Right, right. And so in watching some of the old episodes, I just spent some time reading about the show because I thought they were the first to be in a bed together and that they were the first blended family on TV. Turns
Mhm,
out, no, not
mm.
true for either of them. Uh, there were 7 TV shows prior to the Brady Bunch that showed couples in bed together. Um, and in 1957, so a while before the Brady's, the Danny Thomas Show, aka Make Room for Daddy, his first wife was killed off in the show, and he remarried a widow with a daughter.
Oh, wow.
This was also the first time that a major sitcom character was killed off.
Oh, I see, in that show.
Yep, yep.
Yes, 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 yes.
So if anybody wants to go
Yeah.
even further back in time, check out Make Room for Daddy. And then, yeah, like you said, the Brady Bunch was not a ratings hit. In fact, the show never broke the top 30. The
Mm.
highest it ever ranked was number 34.
Oh, man.
Isn't that crazy?
I know, it is crazy.
So, yeah, like syndication and then Nick at Night and all those things kind of, I
And the
think for
movie,
our
the parody.
generation, yeah,
Mhm.
like I think our generation had a wrong perception of what the Brady Bunch was at the time because it was being shown to us along with I Love Lucy and
Gilligan's Island.
Gilligan's, yeah, like these huge TV shows. And so we were like, oh, the Brady Bunch is a huge TV show. And then yeah, you ask older people, and they're like, that was a corny, terrible show that we never watched.
Right. The original title for the Brady Bunch
Uh-huh.
was slated as The Brady Brood.
The Brady Brood.
It's such a different
Oh
it
yeah.
gives
Well,
such a different tone.
I'm imagining the theme song because the theme song is like the Brady Bunch.
The Brady Brood.
I can only imagine the Brady Brood, yeah, being like a down, like the Brady Brood.
Oh, the Brady Brood.
But yeah, even though it wasn't very popular at the time, obviously people were watching because we did get the variety show spinoff, and then we did get these made for TV movies. And like you said, it's just so odd that they chose to go in like a really weird, dark
Yeah.
direction. Yeah,
Yeah. It is though. I mean, the Brady Bunch as a whole is such an icon, and even the house is a character within
sure.
itself.
Hmm.
That
Yeah,
staircase is like you can just picture it at any moment. I mean, I
of
can
course. Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
Their
That's
whole
why in this
house.
one, when it was repainted, like
Yeah.
that horrible teal, I was like, oh, this feels like a crime.
But also I get it. or
Yeah.
updating. He's an architect.
Yeah.
They would update their house with the times.
Yeah. 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 Carol in this movie is so crazy. I don't like. She's just like. I feel like she's on cocaine or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's just so dialed up, like from the beginning, where she's like, "You know what you're gonna give me for Christmas, and you're not gonna tell me. You can't do that." Like, what on earth? That's what Christmas is. And like, it's also worth noting that 70% of the lines in this movie are exposition.
Yeah.
Like in the beginning, gee, Mike, aren't these bikes so great? Aren't you glad that we bought these for each other for last Christmas? What are you going? It's like, oh boy, oh boy.
Mhm. Mhm.
I also found out that originally, in the original pitch of the show, which this show was pitched for a while, actually,
Yeah.
and it wasn't until Yours, Mine, and Ours was a big hit movie that people were like, a family with kids from both sides coming together. I wonder if we could make that into a TV show. And someone was like, I already made that into a TV show. You rejected it 3 years ago. The original pitch was that Carol was zany and funny, and Mike was more straight laced, and he was the architect, right? And then when they secured Ann B. Davis as Alice, they were like, oh no, she's going to be the zany, funny one. Because Ann B. Davis was a performer, she was a comedian. And then they were like, we can't have two crazy, zany women together. So Carol will become just a normal person. So I just love that the power of Alice was so great that she was
Right.
able to like change the structure of the show. Because if you think about it that way, it really is more like the Odd Couple.
Yes.
Carol as a weird
Yes.
person or zany person, and then Mike as the straight laced guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's a totally different show. It's
And
Dharma and
so
Greg with kids.
right. Oh, what a good one. And then so it's like, just to go back to what we did to Alice with
It's
Sam, do
horrible.
we do this because Alice is zany, so we can give her anything and it's fine? Like, of course, she's gonna forgive Sam. She doesn't even say, "I'll think about it." Just, "Of course, you left me
I
for a younger
hate it.
woman, no problem." I'm like,
I hate
"Alice,
it. Yeah.
no."
Yeah. I hate it. I think it betrays her. Like,
It
you
devalues
know,
her too.
devalues her. And, hey, look, cheating is complicated. We've talked about
Yes.
that a lot on this show,
Yes.
and marriage
Yeah.
is complicated. And we don't want to blame Alice and be like, you're an idiot for going back with Sam. But at the same time, we don't have any, like, Alice is kind of stripped of like any self-respect in this.
Exactly.
Alice cheats on her, and so she becomes like a blubbering mess who goes back to her former employers. She's straight back into wearing her uniform. They're telling her not to work. She can't stop working. Like, it shows that Alice has nothing like in her life outside of Sam or being a nanny for the Bradys. And that's like upsetting because then when you go back and watch the show, you're like, oh, kind of like what's going on here? And she has no, I can't believe I'm about to say this. She has no interior world.
Mhm. I know. I want
She
a spinoff
has.
where and we can Ambi Davis has passed, but I would have
Yeah.
loved a spinoff where we see what Alice is up to. Maybe not a whole spinoff, but something where we spend a day in the life of Alice and we
Yeah.
go to where she lived or what she would like or how she would dress.
Yeah. Well, again, maybe just don't do this storyline, and then she's there and she's just happy and she's like, oh,
Well,
I'm so
right.
glad to spend time with you. Oh, Sam and I do this and all, like, give her instead of taking everything away from her.
I
It's like,
know.
oh my god, it's pretty terrible. I have a question. Did you look up the actors ages in the Brady Bunch?
No. I totally forgot to do that. I looked up Robert's age in the pilot and he's 37. So I was like, "Oh wow, I'm the same age as Mike here." But that was the extent of me looking up ages.
Right, so Mike is your age.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So growing up, Alice to me was like an older woman.
same.
She was the old dowdy madam, you know.
To me, she was like the human version of Rosie from the
Oh yeah,
Jetsons.
Rosie from the Jets. Sure, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
So Ambi Davis was 43 years old
No.
when the Brady Bunch started.
When will I not react to ages is what I wanna know, because we now have done this a bunch of times, and
Mm-hmm.
it still blows my mind.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Carol was 33. Florence Henderson was 33 when the show started.
Wow.
Yeah, which is younger than me.
Yeah.
Okay, so last one, Christopher Knight, who plays Greg in the nightgown, was 31 when this was filmed. So
There you
yeah,
go.
so there
There
you
you
go.
go.
So hey, if anyone out there is 43 years old, you are Alice's age when the Brady Bunch started.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
All
Well,
right. Hey, we finally did it.
thank you, Seth.
2 years in.
I feel like now, my movie friend's journey, if it were to end, I'd feel
We
complete.
going out on a Very Brady Christmas.
Yeah. Can you rate this?
I can tell you that this is a schmovie.
Absolutely. That's the only way I feel I can rate it. I don't really have a star to pair with this, but it's definitely a schmovie.
What I would say is I would have to give this 2 ratings.
Okay.
Critical rating, this is like a 1.5.
Wow.
It's for all the reasons that we just said, which I feel kind of bad because I feel like we did kind of dump on this movie a lot.
No, no, no. I hope this is something I will watch every year and have. I
Yeah.
love
Oh,
this,
yeah.
brings great comfort and
Yeah.
fun.
I won't watch it every year, but like just kind of revisiting the Brady thing.
Mhm.
I very much enjoyed it. Like I was having a good, I was hooting and hollering.
Mhm.
But like, yeah, like critically 1.5. All of the characters are just kind of run through the ringer without real good resolution. We tag on the building collapse, which is insane. It, it's very, very odd. The performances don't match with no laugh track. And perhaps that's why they put one into the new TV show that they did in the 90s, because this just feels so odd. Enjoyment level, though, this is like 3.5. I think it's great fun. If you've never seen it, and if you have any kind of idea of like who the Bradys are, it's just it's a perfect snapshot of a time and like
Mhm.
what people considered to be quality programming to put out.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I would recommend it to people who grew up watching the Bradys. And if you didn't
Definitely.
know this existed, then you should revisit, because like you said, it is a good time. You will hoot and
Yeah.
holler,
Yeah.
but you know, not
Yeah.
the best written.
Hey, if you are worried that your review is not the best written, and that's why you haven't sent one in yet, don't worry about it, folks. Okay? It's Christmas. Come on. It's the time to look past all of our problems and differences and come together. And the way that you can come together with us is by giving us a rate and a review wherever you're listening. We really appreciate it. Right, Michelle?
I would love that. And especially if you listened to this episode and you haven't written a review, this is the perfect starting point. Just say like
Absolutely.
5 stars. I listened to their episode on A Very Brady Christmas, and I'm so glad someone else covered it.
I found out I'm older than Alice and I'm depressed. Thank you, movie friends.
That's a great rating and
Yeah.
review.
We'd also love it if you send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought about our December series. Let us know what you're thinking about for 2025. Hey, come on, anything. You can also support the show, patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. $5 a month gets you access to all of our additional shows where we're talking about the films of Studio Ghibli, the films of Quentin Tarantino. We've got a whole series on every episode of Freaks and Geeks, episode by episode, and more, and more. There's more. We've got a series on Seventh Heaven. We've got a series on action films that I do with my mom. I mean, my goodness. All right, well, normally we would say what we're doing next week, but this is a special Christmas episode, so that's it.
It's a holiday special.
It's a holiday special. I hope you listened to this as you were traveling or if you were just hanging out at home. And yeah. Hey, Merry Chrismukkah, Michelle.
Merry Chrismukkah.
Hey, thank you very much for listening, wherever you are, from our hearts to yours. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. Thank you for listening. Have a good one.
Movie Friends is produced by Seth Vargas and Michelle Rubenstein. Music by Anthony Vicora. If you like the show, please subscribe and give us a rating. It really helps us find new friends. Thanks.